simulcasting at prisonplanet.tv right now, the video. Up on screen, CNBC dollar index headed for rapid collapse chart show. Yeah, that's not their opinion. That's the chart. And look at that chart. And that's what happens. They haven't done quantitative easing. That is giving themselves tens of trillions in about a year, as you can see there on the chart. So the dollar was going down over the last couple of years. Now they're starting it again. It's going back down. It's seesawing. But if you look at a 10-year graph, whether it goes up or down, overall it's going down. Same thing with every other major currency. This is all part of this insider-run market. And just amazing headline also from CNBC. Fed's QE infinity will push gold up to $2,400 an ounce, says Pro. We're going to be breaking that down in about 40 minutes. I've got a whole stack of economic news that we're going to be breaking down here. And then we'll have open phones in the third hour. I'll do nothing but phone calls in the third hour here today. Coming up, we've got a lot of other news that we're going to be breaking down after the break when we go to break and come back with Paul Joseph Watson of prisonplanet.com and Infowars.com. He also, as you know, is a popular host of Infowars Nightly News when he sits in at least once a week. And so he's going to be joining us coming up after the break because I wanted to get him on about a big article. In fact, it may have already gone up. I think it was supposed to go up by the time he was on with us at Infowars.com, dealing with bullets and the fact that the government has purchased even more bullets on top of the $1.4 billion, and how that ties into all the other preparations for collapse. See, they're always talking about attacking Iran, and they've been attacking Iran through proxy groups and terrorist groups and destabilization groups and Stuxnet worms and cyber-type attacks. But now it's all the domestic preparations. It's the economic meltdown accelerating. That's what adds in to this larger constellation of information. And that's why I feel a disturbance in the force, or the spidey sense, to use popular culture nomenclature. Watch your six, Big Daddy, is what I'm saying to everybody out here, because we're getting a lot of flack. Those of us that promote liberty and freedom, we're seeing big pushes for cybersecurity that even CBS News, CNET reports will curtail freedom and tax the internet. I mean, it's just authoritarianism in general is rolling forward real fast. And it's not going to be good for anybody, including the elite long term. But they're so competitive, they're so paranoid, they're so dominant that they want it all. Because they don't really have a total world government yet. They're kind of jockeying for it. And as the world government gets built, there's different factions that never tear down the world government because they all see themselves at the top of the pyramid. As the pyramid's being built by us, the slaves, as we're building our own prison, the controllers, the engineers, the architects, who are building different parts of it, and it's not perfectly built either. It's been built over time by corruption and greed and deception and think tanks and the science of control. As they prepare to complete it, they're now fighting more than ever over who's going to get to be at the top perch. Like a bunch of cockatoos in a tree quacking, squeaking and squawking and crowing and yelling. You watch all those Republicans in that Mother Jones video all around Romney, just, oh, the power, the power. They could only climb the ladder higher. That would fulfill them. You will be fulfilled the moment you decide to stand with humanity, and not a second before that. Alex Jones here with a message that could revolutionize health in this country. Going back about a year and a half ago, I began to learn about the incredible health effects of longevity products. Aaron Dykes lost 92 pounds. We're going to show you some before and afters. Aaron, break down what happened, your story.
I've worked really hard with diet and exercise to try to lose weight, but I just didn't get the results. It just didn't happen. Then I saw what you were doing with InfoWarsTeam.com. I wasn't even trying to lose weight, but I got it because I wanted to feel better energy. I wanted that nutrition. Didn't even understand how that could kickstart my own weight loss goals, but the products did that for me. I found myself suddenly losing weight, more energetic, wanting to exercise, wanting to eat the right foods.
And they don't even advertise it as weight loss. I want to challenge our radio listeners to go to InfoWarsTeam.com, sign up as a distributor, and get wholesale pricing discounts at InfoWarsTeam.com. Ladies and gentlemen, coming up in about 40 minutes, I'm going to break down CNBC. Fed's QE Infinity, that's a term I coined, will push gold up to $2,400 an ounce, says top pro and investment strategist at Bank of America Merrill Lynch. And, of course, you saw months ago George Soros and a lot of the other top guys doubling their gold in a single day in Soros's case. We're going to be looking at all of that coming up. Also, FedEx is reporting that they're seeing the economy really fold. Their business is imploding. Again, this has been engineered, but they want to continue to basically con everybody so that they feel like and think that, oh, things will get better. No, it's designed to consolidate. Dollar index headed for rapid collapse. The chart, CNBC. Poll, are Americans too dependent on government? We're going to be going over some of that. Again, FedEx says economy is worsening, cuts outlook. That is just some of what we're going to be going over. Here is the poll out of Gallup that actually proves what Mitt Romney is being attacked for saying. And again, folks know that I'm not some big fan of Mitt Romney, but when he stands up for basic issues of truth, we have to defend him. Because if we just let his personality that's unpopular with some, be tied to free market, liberty, private property, the American system, then it's game over. But here's the Gallup poll. Majority in the U.S. still say government doing too much. Okay, so people agree with that, but we have 60+% of Democrats saying they want it to do more. We'll be going over some of those numbers again in the second or third of this second hour here today. We're going to be breaking all of that down. I mean, all Mitt Romney said, we played the clip last hour. This is the big news today. Not that Obama and his controllers put al-Qaeda in control of Libya and Syria and turned it over control of Egypt to al-Qaeda light. And then now want us to give our rights up and our guns up because of the al-Qaeda threat that they have basically put in charge. No. The big issue is Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney said, hey, they're trying to get the public dependent so that they'll vote for big government. Oh, really? That's what a Democratic strategist have said for 80 years. I mean, that's not debatable. They want us dependent. And so do the Republicans. They go along with all this. Look at Bush and his no child, left behind federalization of education, his prescription drug program, a giveaway to the big insurance companies and big pharma. Look at Romney writing the health care plan that Obama adopted because the insurance companies told him what to put together, which forces us to buy their products. So he wants to get elected claiming he's going to battle this collectivist takeover. My point is that it shows how far we've gone that he's being attacked for pointing out what's true. But notice Mitt Romney said this in private to big donors. He isn't saying that on the campaign trail. He would win hands down if he went out and talked like that right now. He would win hands down. And if he would go out and publicly speak and pledge to do that, well, then maybe we'd have a snowball's chance in hell. But I'm being sarcastic, ladies and gentlemen. It's a snowball's chance in hell that he would ever actually even do any of this. The point is, though, that you're then forced to defend him because now it's un-American to not want half the public dependent on government. And again, once they pass that magic number of over 50%, and they tell us we're a democracy, 51% can take everything the rest of us have. That's why in a republic, you can't do that. If the town votes 51% to take your farm with no compensation, they can't do it because that's robbery, because you have private property rights. But we don't anymore under this global system. And it isn't a bunch of welfare moms organizing this takeover. It's mega banks who are exempt from the collectivism they push on us. It's a corporate takeover we're facing against all the good corporations and private businesses and families and companies and institutions that want a level playing field and really want to compete and kick butt. Ladies and gentlemen, all over the country, we are put on AM and FM stations and end up defeating whoever we're up against. It's happened in just the last year, 5 cities with AccuNet instant ratings, the people meters, the computers. Instead of it being an Arbitron, which is owned by the Dutch, same group that controls Nielsen, that's been proven to be a fraud. Well, now they have these AccuMeters that have been really proving more accurate. They've got different companies doing it, but the point is, you know, we will destroy Rush Limbaugh. They'll put us on a station, say Orlando, 810 there, and they put us on the weekend, got really popular. So they put us on at night, gets really popular. They put us on for 1 year, a little over a year, in the day, 12 noon to 3 p.m. Eastern, Rush Limbaugh slot. I never got that slot to go up against Rush Limbaugh. That's where Genesis put me. I thought 9 to midnight was the better slot, but they said, this is the slot we want you in. Then later they wanted me to do the nighttime slot, too, and I did that for a while. And I've been offered all sorts of syndication things if I would do the nighttime 9 to midnight. I just can't do 2 shows a day, but the point is, maybe I should. I'm going to go to Paul Watson. The point is that we beat him. I mean, I'm talking about in just 6 months, they went from number 6 or number 7, depending on the demographic, to number 1. But it didn't matter because the local, the big establishment sponsors didn't come through, and so they went back to a music format because that's what the elderly wanted in the area. Number 1 in Orlando, and it just switched formats. Went there, spoke to 1,200 people. They turned away probably 500. I can go anywhere and speak to thousands. Much bigger than Glenn Beck when it comes to actual crowds of people. Right now I can do that. But see, we're real. In this world, it isn't just about getting the top ratings. It isn't about winning the race. It's rigged to a great extent. But the internet has begun to change all of that and create more of a level playing field. And so the establishment is coming in trying to censor and control the web now because the system can't stand the fact that real intellect and real understanding can trump all of their big money and propaganda. Just an example. The show's exploding. We're getting new affiliates every week. It's just that you still always lose some by attrition as they sell or change formats. All right, we're going to cover that more at the end of the hour. Let's go right now to Paul Joseph Watson joining us. You can watch him if you're a PrisonPlanet.tv subscriber. You can watch the Daily Radio Show with all of our guests. It adds a whole other element. And your membership, $5.95 a month, I should also add, funds what we're doing here at PrisonPlanet.tv. You also get the nightly news. And get to see folks like Watson here and see the documents and video clips, and it adds a whole nother dimension and then some to what we're doing. So be sure and check out PrisonPlanet.tv. I want to thank all those members. Okay, Paul, I want to get into the whole geopolitical realm, what you've been researching, your take on the buildup for war, Al-Qaeda attacking embassies that our own government put in, what you think the grand stratagem is from your research. But first, after you're on today, the article will come out dealing with more bullet purchases and the whole domestic buildup. See, it's the police state buildup coupled with everything else that tells us we're in a very dangerous time. Give us your take on that, Paul Joseph Watson.
Hi, Alex. Good to be back. Yeah, basically, as many of the listeners will know, over the past 6 months, mainly the Department of Homeland Security, but also other federal agencies, have basically purchased bullets, rounds of ammunition in huge numbers. Before this recent purchase, which I'll talk about, they were up to 1.2 billion rounds of ammo purchased just in the last 6 months alone. And that's only the Department of Homeland Security. So now we've got a new story coming out shortly where the DHS has purchased a further 200 million rounds of ammunition. And an interesting detail of this story is the fact that a portion of it is blank ammunition, and in it they state that it's going to be used to train new snipers. That's why they're using blank ammunition, because they want to train them up for target practice. So
whoa. They've been blacking out a lot of these documents. This is on the federal purchase sites. Well, the headline should be Homeland Security Training Army of Snipers. The fact that they're getting counting last year, that's over $1.6 billion now that they're purchasing an additional 200 mil. This year alone, in 8 months or 9 months, you're talking, this is just staggering, $1.2 billion. And you're saying they're purchasing ammo for snipers now. My God, Watson.
Well, yeah, it's blank ammunition for sniper training, so that's what they say it's for. But yeah, as you said, they start to black out some of the numbers in some of the ammunition purchases on the Fed BizOps website, which anyone can go on and see what the federal government's buying. And then, of course, we had, well, people asked the DHS, why are you buying all these bullets? They refused to answer why. So then the Social Security Administration purchased, I believe it was 174,000 rounds of ammunition. And then the Associated Press and numerous other establishment media outlets came out and basically did a whitewash and said, this is, you know, the Social Security Administration has armed officers that go out and perform these duties. It's a relatively small amount of bullets for the whole country. Why is everybody getting in such a froth about it? There go the paranoid conspiracy theorists again. But in that article, in that Associated Press article, they failed completely to mention that simultaneously the DHS was purchasing, as he said, now up to 1.4 billion rounds of ammo. So they completely ignored that in order to pass it off as a wild paranoid conspiracy theory.
Well, that's going to be coming up, what, by the middle of the next hour?
Yeah, I'll be getting that article up on Infowars.com.
All right, well, this is huge news. We're going to go to break and come back and get into the geopolitical, but I'm begging our listeners and our media friends out there in talk radio, you name it, to get this article Paul's putting out and get it out, because the media responded with thousands of articles in the last month saying we basically made all this up and we have all the proof, and straw-manning it down to 174,000 rounds. We need to force this story back out and say, no, now it's sniper rounds. This is incredible.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done's been right.
We are in the throes of a designed global meltdown, out of which chaos will erupt. Then the establishment will use that chaos as a pretext to bring in order. And let me tell you, it's creepy to have 500 news articles in one day over that, really. You can go to Google and see when it happened. I mean, for weeks on end, this has been going on for almost a month, saying that, you know, there's no bullets or it's only 174,000. Always focusing in on that and saying we're making a big deal out of 174,000. We're making a big deal out of 1.4 billion since last November till now. That's 10, 11 months. And now Watson's done the math just this year with an additional 200 million, a bunch of them for snipers. Just the magnitude of that, 1.6 billion. Billion. They are digging in like it's the end of the world. Now, I'm not saying it's the end of the world, but something's going on. Watson, I'm going to shut up, because we only got you to 45 after that. I got to get into the financial news. But continuing with all the stuff going on in the world, I wanted to get you on a few days ago, but you were busy, so now you're here with us, about all these articles about Al-Qaeda and the jihadis and burning down American flags. Go over the news, but give me your gut, because I've learned over the years, knowing you 11 years, you've worked with us, you're a smart cookie, one of the smartest people I know, especially for your age. What are you, you're not even 30 yet. Watson, what do you make of all this? I mean, what do you think's getting ready to happen?
Well, I think it's abundantly clear, if we want to take it from what happened last week, that the attack on the consulate in Benghazi and the killing of the ambassador had nothing whatsoever to do with this idiotic 13-minute YouTube video released by a convicted felon who was a former informant for the federal government. And it's not even a film. Nobody's actually seen the full film. It's a stupid 13-minute YouTube video. And I mean, it's so bad, you'd think it was supposed to be a comedy. I compared it to a situation where, you know, if the Muslims are rioting over this, then Christians should riot over Monty Python's The Life of Brian. I mean, that's how pathetic and ridiculous this video is. And actually, it's funny that you can get away with portraying Jesus as, you know, a paedophile, a rapist, whatever you like. In the West, people have made entire stage shows in London about it, and nobody batters an eyelid. But a badly made 13-minute YouTube clip supposedly insulting towards the Prophet Mohammed when in fact all the insults were dubbed in afterwards. You can clearly see that. And the whole Middle East is in uproar. But the embassy attack, we know, was planned way in advance. US had prior knowledge, of course, because they armed and funded the very same people in Libya who carried it out. And it's the same people who flew al-Qaeda flags over courthouses in Benghazi, the same people who are flying those same flags now, even as CNN says it's not the al-Qaeda flag. They actually put out a report claiming that the black flag with white lettering isn't the al-Qaeda flag when everybody recognizes that it is. So they're trying
it's
to...
It's so well known in the Middle East, it's like saying the Texas flag isn't the Texas flag. And, of course, don't forget your other report where the New York Times and CNN were saying that they were parading the ambassador through the streets trying to rescue him. And I heard that again on TV last night. They're still pushing it.
No, you've got a bunch of guys sticking a camera in his face, shouting Allahu Akbar, giving each other high fives, fist pumping. And the New York Times came out and said, look, they were trying to rescue him. So they're trying to cover up the fact that these terrorists that the Obama administration put into power in Libya are now attacking your embassies, United States embassies. But that's not to say, on the flip side, that a huge number of these protests we now see around the Muslim world are not being driven by this stupid Mohammed film, because it's taken on a legend of its own. The media...
Well, by the media, exactly. By the media saying it was the cause. It's like a green light to go crazy.
Yeah, because a lot of these Muslim clerics are telling everyone to riot over it. You had the Hezbollah leader just yesterday saying everybody should go out and riot. And now they're talking about destroying classified documents at the US Embassy in Beirut. They're expecting that to be stormed in the coming couple of days. So it's partly contrived, but it's partly the fact that these Muslim leaders are telling their followers to riot. And that's stupid, because if they see how ridiculous and stupid this video is, they wouldn't be fussed about it at all. So... And, it's been released by a federal informant, a convicted criminal that's worked with the US government in the past. So I just find it interesting that these Muslims will attack embassies and riot over some sophomoric YouTube video, but largely stay silent, when 1 million plus Iraqis get killed, or when, the United States is helping to execute heads of states in places like Libya.
Alex Jones here with a very important announcement for truth seekers. We've carried a lot of amazing films and books over the years on the online video bookstore at Infowars.com. And out of all the titles we've carried, one stands out because it is just so chillingly convincing. And that's Dreams from My Real Father by Joel Gilbert, available at Infowars.com. This film exposes the fraud that Obama is like nothing I've seen. If you want to know who Obama's real daddy is, this is the film for you. Don't forget, your purchase supports our broadcast and our growing media network. You'll also find at InfoWarsShop.com, None Dare Call a Conspiracy by Gary Allen, the book that woke me up. We're also carrying Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21 by Rosa Corey. This book is coffin nails to the globalist takeover. The Greater Good, the most professional and up-to-date film I've ever seen exposing the scourge that is vaccines. These titles and a lot more are all available at InfoWarsShop.com. It is a great honor. It is a great responsibility. We certainly don't have all the answers, and I'm not perfect, but I'm trying the best I can. I got a pure heart. I love God. I love freedom. People ask, who do I work for? I work for you. Because if you're going to have a good life, I'm going to have a good life. I believe in win-win. I want justice. I want a level playing field. I want to be able to have a future for my children. It is just that simple. And when people lose track of that in a civilization, or when people just say, oh, that's the way it's always been, just let things be corrupt. When you give in to corruption, it's over. That said, we are so busy knocking it out of the park every day with just incredible interviews and reports and information and analysis that we don't tend to hype the real magnitude of what we're about to present. In the last 2 weeks, we've been doing a big Agenda 21 investigation that's involved 3 of my reporters and myself, or actually 4 of my reporters and myself. And tomorrow night on the Nightly News, we're going to air the findings of that. that includes the police being called on us, you name it. It's pretty wild. And the police showing up. But that's a side issue compared to the University of Texas interview that we were going to get last Friday with a professor, but we couldn't get it because the campus was evacuated with the bomb threat. They got the interview yesterday, and it is sensational. We got it with the professor that teaches sustainable development, Agenda 21 at UT, the professor. And, I mean, the nuclear family is bad. Well, it's in his words. And I'm trying to figure out with Aaron, who went up to all these local towns to show them taking over. It's a takeover. I'm trying to figure out how to combine Melissa Melton's piece with this. It'll be on the nightly news tomorrow. And then it'll be on the radio Thursday. Thursday is going to be an original show, but it's going to be compilations of these new reports because I've got so many reports, I can't even put them all in the nightly news. And then the nightly news reaches millions every week, but each report maybe only 200, 300,000 people total. So more and more you're going to hear some of these reports here on the radio. But, I mean, I got a laundry list of new reports that we're going to be airing Thursday here. Tomorrow night, I'm going to record the intros to all these, so it'll be a special report Thursday. All right, let me go to Paul Watson, back to Paul Watson. Paul, you know, we saw churches blown up and burned, synagogues blown up and burned by al-Qaeda, put in via NATO out of Turkey and Jordan. And then the media has it in the news, but it's in the back of the paper. And then we're unpatriotic if we don't support al-Qaeda, blowing up churches, desecrating crosses, dressing up in Orthodox priest outfits. You know what? Free reign has been given to attack Christians. And here's the deal. I don't sit there and attack Muslims in general. This clash of civilizations is being orchestrated. But the Muslims do take some of the blame and need to understand that running off wildly to decry Christians all day and desecrate crosses and all this is offensive. And I think that's where you were starting to go. Where is the media, when you did the reports, showing al-Qaeda's own videos blowing up churches and desecrating crosses? Again, it's not just the radical Muslims. It's the scum that runs our country. They're anti-Christian, and they're giving the Muslim extremists free reign to walk all over us, Paul.
Well, I mean, that's the point. These extremists are a very tiny minority of Muslims. Most Muslims actually like Christianity. They want to get along with people. I mean, the Pope's visiting the Middle East this week, and there's pictures everywhere of Muslims posing with the Pope, posing with photographs of the Pope. But you don't see that in the media. It's not up there because they're pushing this clash of civilizations. But as you said, a lot of the Muslims actually have to harbour some of the blame because they're going out and doing this rioting. They're being told to do it by their leaders. And most of them haven't even seen the stupid video that's causing it all. But how it ties into Iran, which is what you were getting into before the break, you remember, I think it was last year, we had the story where basically the neocons came out through a number of different publications and offered Obama a deal. They basically told him, if you throw America's weight behind the Israeli attack on Iran, we will support you. That's what they said. Now in the last few weeks, as it appears that, you know, Obama's starting to get cold feet, refuses to meet with Netanyahu on this scheduled Iran attack as all the big armadas and ships sail towards there. It seems that this contrived phony outrage in the Middle East is being pushed for that exact purpose, to crucify Obama on his failed foreign policy as a last, you know, desperate push for the neocons to get their man in. So it is a kind of jockeying for position amongst the two-party gang system, as Webster Tarpley said on your show a couple of days ago. And I had that thought last week, that it appears as though they're trying to make Obama appear like Jimmy Carter because he's starting to get cold feet on the Iran attack. And it's a last gasp effort by the neocons. Because if you look at the actual betting, not the polls in America show Obama has been in front with a lead of about 3 points. That's probably narrowed in the past couple of weeks. But if you look at the actual betting websites, and it's illegal to bet on the US presidential election in the United States, but the UK bookies rarely get it wrong. and they're saying that Obama has a 70% chance of winning the election, and Romney's down at 30%. So if you look at the actual betting figures, it seems clear that Obama's the favourite, and this contrived outrage was an attempt by the neocons to sacrifice him on his foreign policy, turn him into a figure of ridicule, Jimmy Carter-style figure. And that's where it's going. And again, they're using the radical Muslims to do it.
Well, look, I'm not obviously into lesser of two evils or pick your poison, you know, cherry-flavored cyanide or grape-flavored cyanide. But you've still got to look at these two guys and the power structure behind them. And Obama, it's a bunch of Chicago globalist, anti-gun, anti-family, socialist, you know, Agenda 21 in hyper-warp, which I absolutely hate and just loathe. So it's like asking me, do I want to jump in a wood chipper, or do I want to, you know, jump into a giant vat of piranhas? And either one looks equally horrible. And then you've got Romney over there, who at least has some good rhetoric on issues, but we know is bad news. And he's got the neocons all behind him who are absolutely torture, secret arrest, warrantless spying, wars, false flags. And then, you know, there's electronic voting fraud. I mean, Romney just a week or two ago was starting to beat Obama in polls. Now, because the media running these faux pas hoaxes, you know, he's fallen behind. And at a cynical level for talk radio, gun sales, what, you know, we do, if I was just a business guy, I'd say, oh, I want Obama back in. But I'm morally, because people will go to sleep once Romney gets in. But then I kind of fantasize and think, oh, maybe Romney isn't too bad. Maybe he'll get in and be better. So I think, oh, I want Romney. Overall, I want Romney at a subconscious level, if I consciously think about it, Paul, because, you know, there's this idea of Bush was bad, maybe Obama will be better. Even though I knew Obama was going to be horrible and I didn't support him over McCain, I still hoped maybe, you know, he would end the wars and not torture everybody. But then he expanded us, as Chris Hedges said. The Pulitzer Prize winner suing over NDAA, and we have some news on that. And so, you know, now you just kind of hope, well, maybe Romney, maybe we'll change, you know, rearrange deck chairs on the Titanic. But I think that answers my question. It's all rearranging deck chairs. I want your take on that, Paul. But here is this really serious news. Obama wins right to indefinitely detain Americans under NDAA. This is out of RT. It's getting almost no news. It happened late last night. A lone appeals judge bowed down to the Obama administration late Monday and reauthorized the White House's ability to indefinitely detain American citizens without charge or due process. But notice this is nowhere in the, quote, liberal press because they don't want to point out he's not a liberal. Last week, a federal judge ruled the temporary injunction on Section 1021 of the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2012 must be made permanent, essentially barring the White House from ever enforcing a clause in the NDAA that can let them put any U.S. citizens behind bars indefinitely over mere allegations of terrorist associations. On Monday, the U.S. Justice Department asked for an emergency stay on the order, and hours later, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit Court of Richmond, Raymond Lawyer, agreed to intervene and place a hold. But it's only a hold. But that's still terrible, terrible news. I mean, this is so clearly absolute, pure, take him away to the dungeon, imperious tyranny. I mean, this is the criminals confessing to their criminal intent, to their tyranny, Paul.
Well, it's amazing, isn't it, that Obama signed this into law on New Year's Eve while everyone was out partying drunk. He put in a meaningless signing statement saying, I'm not going to use this against American citizens. He then repeated that about a week ago in that interview with Ben Swan. He said, we're never going to use it against Americans. And now they appealed. It got struck down by a federal judge in New York that you can't indefinitely detain American citizens. The Obama administration, within hours, immediately appealed it. And now, as you just said, they've got it overturned again. So it's all about hiding behind this smoke and mirrors of trendy, you know, feel-good liberalness. And they're the ones all along pushing it. In fact, when it was passed, Levine in the Congress said that it was the Obama administration that specifically demanded the indefinite detention provisions pertain to American citizens. They tried to take out the language. The Obama administration said no. So they've been pushing it all along, and it's no surprise that they've, you know, bitten back against this New York judge's ruling.
Well said, Paul. Thank you for coming on and reporting here on the radio for us. I know you'll be doing the nightly news later this week. And we appreciate all the fine reportage you and your brother as the dynamic duo are engaged in over there at prisonplanet.com and Infowars.net, one of the auxiliary sites. Any other tidbits you'd like to add? And again, what's the ETA on your 200 million bullet story?
ETA is probably about an hour from now. Just wanted to throw in a last thing about Syria because it all ties in. Basically, we had the article the other day, Syrian rebels burn US flag. And it illustrated the fact that these rebels are gleefully accepting their role as, NATO and US pawns on this grand chessboard. Because the situation in Syria boils down to the fact that, as Dr. Jacques Beres of Doctors Without Borders reported about a week ago, and this is an independent organization, he was actually in Aleppo treating the opposition fighters, the opposition militants, and he said that 60% of them, 60% were not Syrian. They were foreign fighters. So, imagine for a moment that China sends in PLA troops to radicalize and arm Occupy Wall Street protesters in America, or Tea Party insurgents, whichever you like. And suddenly you've got 40% of Americans backed up by 60% Chinese PLA troops attacking government buildings, carrying out bombings, assassinations. Would that be a genuine, organic, grassroots American revolution? Well, no, it would be a hostile takeover by a foreign nation. And whether you support them or not, the US government would be within their rights to repel that with all the force. And yet, the establishment media tells us that these Syrian rebels, most of whom in some cities, not all, aren't even Syrian, that it's an organic grassroots revolution of protesters and demonstrators who have, just by accident, I suppose, commandeered tanks and fighter jets and are attacking the government. Imagine if that happened in America, what the reaction would be. And again, you've had the Guardian reporting that Al-Qaeda meets with them, trains them how to make bombs, trains them how to carry out terror attacks. You've had other British reporters who say most of the accents these rebels had were not foreign. Some of them were English. They've got Muslims from Birmingham who are actually fighting on the side of the rebels. So how that can even be called, called an organic uprising from within the country? When it's
purely a proxy invasion. Great job, Paul Watson. Again, about an hour from now, your big report will be on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. I don't know the headline to go with. Let's not give it out on air yet, but DHS now buying 200 million rounds, sniper rounds, or DHS has now purchased 1.2 billion in just the last year, or DHS is purchasing an additional 200 million rounds, now up to 1.6 billion in the last year. I mean, it's all just incredible. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Alex.
Just absolutely amazing. Okay, I want to get into some economic news here, but I first want to show this graph that Breitbart.com is reporting on here. And this is why mainstream media is supporting web shutdowns, free speech shutdowns, because they can't compete. And I want to show you a graph here. This is newspaper advertising revenue adjusted for inflation 1950 to 2012. And you can see here web advertising in the center line, if you're watching on prisonplanet.tv, is only a little bit above print collapse. There is a close to total collapse of newspaper revenue, both online and in print. Though in alternative media, even though we're in a depression, advertising revenue is up. And why is that? It's because no one trusts you or no one believes you. And that's unfortunate, because most news in the newspaper is pretty accurate. There was this much rain today. We need local newspapers. We need local boots on the ground. We need the professionalism of the old journalistic system. But I mean old 100 years ago, 50 years ago. What we have today, politically, what's giving the rest of news a bad name is the politicos at the press club, at the press briefings that regurgitate what they're told and that repeat what they're told. That's what's destroying it. So it's not just the economy that's causing this. Okay, let's continue here. Getting into the economy. We're going to skip this break because this is so important, this network break. Feds, QE Infinity will push gold up to 2,400. That's CNBC. And they're saying that the quantitative infinity, they believe in the next year, will raise the price of gold to $2,400. That's Francisco Blanche, very respected global investment strategist with the Bank of America Merrill Lynch, in a note to clients. Now, again, given the new open-ended nature of QE3, the upward pressure on gold prices should continue until employment is strong enough to require a change in policy, which isn't happening. Let's shift gears here. Now to other economic news that's here in my stacks. I have the report here. This is also out of CNBC. Dollar index headed for rapid collapse. Here's the chart, and it shows the dollar plunging massively in just the last few weeks. You can see that there on the chart. Dollar index headed for rapid collapse. Quantitative easing is really another word for currency wars. A weak U.S. currency puts continued pressure on the Japanese yen, the Chinese yuan, the South Korean won, the Australian dollar, and other currencies. Cheap money also fuels speculation. This money quickly drifts into commodity markets, absolutely driving up prices even more. So this is economic warfare, not just against foreign governments, but against the people of every country, including ours. And that's CNBC saying what Webster Tarpley said on the show yesterday and what Max Kaiser said. This is global bankers waging war on everyone. It's a full spectrum war. They go fund the al-Qaeda in Libya and Syria, but not just there in Afghanistan and Iraq. Because if you want to be there to have a war, I was talking to some military guys just yesterday. They were saying, yeah, you're absolutely right. When we went into Baghdad, we were ordered to drive right past the armament depots so resistance could get it, so we'd have an excuse to stay there for no-bid contracts. Yeah, the globalists go start wars and create these groups so they have an excuse to go in. They run both sides. This has gone on for hundreds of years, but now it's scientifically done. That's why they caught British, Israeli, and U.S. mercenaries, including British special forces, not just mercenaries. That was London Guardian, dressed up as Sunnis killing Shiites and shooting at U.S. troops, because you've got to have a war to have $15 million blue tarps that really cost $100. It's criminal looting. These wars are like a bank robber going and setting fire to the local church so that the police are all at the church fire while they rob the bank. They go create the al-Qaeda, show they can go in and take over these countries, and then they think you're so stupid they move the al-Qaeda to the next country. Then they use the al-Qaeda to kill the ambassador. I mean, they think you're so stupid. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.